Hello everybody. You only have roughly 2 weeks left for NEST 2025. You have just given IT exam. For some people it went great, for some people it was okay, and some people did not meet their own expectations. Forget about what happened. Your next goal should be NEST 2025. Learn from your mistakes and move forward, okay? Now, first thing you need to know in NEST is out of the 4 sections, you only have to attempt 3. Even if you attempt 4, the best 3 sections will be counted, right? So why should bio students waste their time behind maths, okay? Use that time for the other subjects. Make sure you don't make mistakes there. So this entire strategy that I'll give is going to mostly revolve around maths students, right? Now, if you look at the differences between IIT and NEST exam, in IIT you have 15 questions, where in NEST you are going to have 20 questions, right? Which means more questions, hence more chapters get weightage, right? Second difference is the difficulty level, right? So on a random year, I can clearly say that the difficulty level of the NEST exam is at least 1.5 times that of NEST. But because this year, IIT 2025, the math section was really easy, I'm hoping or I'm expecting that the difficulty level of NEST is going to be at least twice as hard at IIT, okay? Right, so keeping this in mind, you have to adjust your preparation accordingly, right? Now coming to the trend analysis, okay? First things first, if you look at the initial couple of years, okay, if you look at 2017, let's say, you can see that algebra had a huge weightage, right? You had 6 questions coming from the entire algebra module. But if you compare it with recent years, let's say 24 and 23, in 24 there was only 3 questions, here there were 2 questions, here there were 1 question, right? In 2023 session 2, there was only 1 question, okay? This kind of tells you that the trend analysis or the trend that NEST is following has shifted a lot from 2017 all the way till 2024. Second thing that you need to understand is in the recent years, it has become an extremely calculus heavy exam, right? If you look at differential calculus, you can see that there were 4 questions from here, and similarly if I compare it with integration, you can see that there were another 4 questions from here, right? So you can clearly expect that 1/3 of the paper is going to come from calculus, which means your calculus needs to be extremely strong. Now, I'm not saying that just skip the rest of the chapters, just prepare for calculus because you know you don't have to attempt a lot. That's not what I'm saying. This is a clear indication that there is no general trend that NEST follows, okay? If you compare this with IIT, IIT has a pretty straightforward trend analysis, okay? The weightages are almost fixed. There is very minor variation when it comes to IIT, but NEST doesn't follow the same thing, okay? Now, the next thing. The questions are going to get more difficult when you compare it with IIT, okay? Which means if your topics were already weak when you were preparing for IIT, there is not a lot of sense to start preparing for those topics now, okay? Even if you do those topics, there is a chance that the question that comes from those chapters will be difficult. So my best advice to you guys would be to make sure that whatever your strong topics are, make them even stronger. Focus a little less on your weaknesses, right? Because you don't really have that much time. But if you're done with all this, you can definitely work on that. That's completely your choice. Now, when it comes to attempting the paper, okay, previously there used to be multiple option correct questions, right, where you actually had to analyze all the different options, but now you only have single option correct, right? So as soon as you get that one option is correct, you don't really have to check the other options, right? Because you'll see that there are a lot of questions where you actually have to individually check the options, right? So the moment you get the first option correct, take on it and move on to the next question. The next thing, which I always say, look at the entire paper, take a minute to glance at the entire question paper, look for the chapters that you are comfortable in, okay? Start with those chapters, okay? That gives you a huge confidence boost which will help you throughout the exam. Third mistake which a lot of people make, stop being greedy for marks, okay? You know that the cutoff of NEST, okay, it revolves around 50% of the total marks, right? That's not me saying that you should attempt exactly 50%, but don't go to attempt the entire paper, okay? That's a really bad strategy. You'll make a lot of mistakes, you'll lose negative marking, and compared to IIT, the NEST negative marking is slightly harsher, right? Because it's a +3 - 1 compared to the +4 - 1 in IIT, right? So don't be greedy, don't go to the paper, go for the paper thinking that I'll attempt all the questions. No. Set a goal for yourself, give a lot of mocks, look at your trend analysis, decide how many questions you want to attempt, and make sure you kind of want to reach that target, okay? So how do you figure out what is the optimal number of questions that you should be attempting so that you don't make mistakes? You need to give mocks, right? So look at the PYQs, they'll give you a general idea about from which chapters, which kind of questions can come, also the general difficulty level of the paper. And if you're done with all these mocks, analyze it, and if you need more resources, we have our NEST Everything series and the NEST Mock Test series, right? These are extremely good mocks which are exactly at the level of the next exam, so they'll give you a real exam experience plus its time constraints, so that you can exactly know what time you need to allot to each of the sections that you're attempting, whether you're going slow, whether you're going too fast, whether you're making silly mistakes, and so on and so forth, right? So the links of these courses will be there in the description. Make sure you check them out. And apart from this, if you have any other questions, feel free to write it in the comment. All the best for next 2025.